Morning, my loves. Once again, the YouTube demons got me. So having issues again this morning with my camera, but better late than never, I say. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Debbi Carberry. I am a university-trained therapist. I help women over 45 and some over 70 who are going through a really significant life transition. Usually a long-term relationship has ended and they are also going through things like menopause, their kids are leaving home. So they have a lot going on all at once, and I help them through that process. If you are here this morning, please do say hello in the comments. Good morning, Kathy. Nice to see you, love. Do say hello in the comments. Also, if you're here because of my Heartbreak to Healing workshop, then do give me a wave and let me know that you're coming to the workshop. It's a free workshop that is happening in May, and I've invited the ladies who are attending that workshop to come along and ask questions if they like to. So my goal is every single Thursday morning to pop on here without too much stress, though it has been stressful both times I've done it. I seem to have issues with cameras. And what I want to do when I come on here on a Thursday morning is answer questions live. So to engage with people and talk to people about the struggles that they're currently having. So good morning and welcome. Hi, Kate. Nice to see you enough. Like I said, if you are around, say hello. Don't forget, because this is really important, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and do hit me a like so that my videos can be spread far and wide. It's very important and very helpful for me. Hi, Kylie. Nice to see you. Good morning. 4 weeks into a separation, blindsided, and you've got 2 kids. Kylie, you're right in the thick of the painfulness of it all. So if you have questions for me, you can pop them into the comments here. I have some questions that have been asked of me, so I've got them here just in case we don't get many questions this morning. I've got some questions here that I'll answer. These are questions that come up a fair bit. So if you, like I said, if you have a question for me, please do pop it into the comments. If you would like to say hello, also do that, because that just helps me. I like to see who's watching and have a chat if I can. So how about I answer one question that comes up a lot, and it's about why does pornography feel as painful to some women as their partners have an affair? And there are lots of issues right now, probably more so than at any other time, given the internet, that access to that kind of material is more readily available all the time. It's on your phone is in your pocket. I think for many women, what happens is it feels like a breach of trust. It feels like our partners are hiding something for us, they're denying what they're doing, or they're dismissing that it's that much of a problem, we shouldn't be bothered. And that rings true with things like affairs, right? So the same sort of feelings come up. It's hidden, it's denied, it's dismissed, and it can be absolutely devastating. So for many women, pornography is quite a painful experience if their partner is doing it a lot, which we do have issues now with, with addiction. I don't like the word addiction, but with addiction to this. And so for many women, it really starts to intrude into the sexual side of their relationship. So it's just really important to have conversations with your partner if there are issues going on. We can feel objectified, we can feel compared to, we can feel unwanted. You have to understand that generally speaking, what is happening in those kinds of videos are nothing like reality. They're nothing like what women are really like and the way women really respond to things. And so it can really hit us hard because I can't compare myself to that. I can't compete with something that is designed to have you behave in certain ways. I just want people to know that if you're feeling distressed about it, it is valid to feel that way. You can talk to your partner and explain to them why it's so hurtful to you. If you are wanting to, if you are willing to, find an alternative that maybe both of you could share that doesn't upset you. But at the end of the day, boundaries in relationships are really important, and having conversations about, how, when, what, is acceptable to you is just super, super important. And I know it's a really tricky topic, like many topics are, but I think it's just really important to have those conversations as quickly as you can, rather than letting things fester and get upset, more and more upsetting, and become, something quite pragmatic, quite destructive in your relationships. So yeah, that is one of the questions that I got today, not today, but I have ready for today. and a question that I'm asked a fair bit, and a question that is becoming more problematic and more intrusive in relationships. So, hello, Sarah. How you going, my love? So, Kelly, 4 weeks into a separation and you feel blindsided and got 2 kids. There is a lot to unpack in that. So, there's the situation of the earliness of the separation in those really early days. And early days, what is early days? If you had a relationship that ended in the last 5 years, you are probably going to move through this process more easily and in quicker time than somebody who has not. If you're in a relationship that lasted decades, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, then 15 years, that's a long time. We've been in a relationship for a long time. It's really, really challenging. First of all, you go into, especially if you're blindsided, we can go into shock, like complete shock. Like, I can't believe this is happening. This is strange. Where did this come from? I thought we were okay. They never told me that they were unhappy. So the first process that you begin and you hit hard is that just shock, like, what is going on? This doesn't make sense to me. As time goes on, so after 15 years, what I would imagine is that first 6 months is breathtaking. The first 3 months is just grappling with what is happening and trying to just get through the day, trying to cope with things, trying to make sure your kids are okay, trying to keep it together if you're working. And so there's a lot of just trying to just get from the morning to the evening. I've actually written a poem about this. I write poetry and put it on my channel. You're welcome to go have a look at that. But that getting in that fog of those first 3 months is just intolerable. Then you start to become a bit more pragmatic and start to move through the grief of the relationship in the next 6 months to 2 years. So for women who've been with their partners for up to 30, 40 years, it's going to take you a good few years to just grapple with everything. You've got things like just the grief and shock of it all. Then you've got going through that true grief of the relationship ending, and that means lots of different things depending on your circumstances. Your kids are involved. How do you manage this relationship as ex-parents, co-parenting them depending on their age? How do you manage the splitting up of assets, which is really challenging? Do you have to leave your home? There's just so much to unpack in all of that, alongside what is going to happen to me now? How is my life going to be now? How am I going to cope now? And so it takes lots of time. I think the most important thing when you're experiencing this is to make sure that you are looking after yourself. And I don't want to give you platitudes, and I don't want to tell you, lots of self-care. Oh Lord, please try self-care. But basics, make sure you're trying to get outside and go for a walk for 15 minutes. Make sure that you're trying to eat if you possibly can. If you're feeling so upset in your tummy, try and have, one of those smoothies or something that's got a bit of vitamins in it and minerals in it that's kind of going to help you get through. Try and get some sleep if you can. If you can't rest, make sure you're showering and brushing your teeth. I know that sounds weird for some of you, but some women really struggle with that when they're going through so much distress. So in those early days, it's really important just to take the best care of yourself that you possibly can. And early on, there can be a lot of pressure. Like, you're saying he's pressuring for childcare arrangements and finances, and you're just playing catch up. I think in the first 3 months, just make small agreements. What will we do this month? Make sure you're seeing a lawyer. In some countries, you can access that free of charge. There are relationship services also in some countries that are free of charge. So get access to those. Do not be pressured in that early stage to agree to anything in writing. You need time to process it. What I would be suggesting is, in regard to the children, is let's do this month and then reassess at the end of the month, depending on the children's ages. Also, when it comes to property settlement, like, you really need to just pull back a bit. Again, have a 1 month plan of, whether some people have to stay in the same home, how you're going to manage that, how money will be divided, if at all, credit cards and things like that. Like, you kind of do have to have those emergency discussions about how you manage those things in the short term. But I wouldn't be making any long-term plans at all in those really early stages, and I would be getting some legal advice. it just takes time for you. Like you said, you're playing catch up. And so you need to be in a very straight place with your head when you're going to start negotiating on such important things as childcare and financial property settlement. Like, you really need to know what you're going to do about that. If you're watching, give me a wave. Do say good morning to me. Do hit the subscribe button and the notification button. The notification button will tell you when I'm live, and then you can come and ask questions. I try and do these once a week on a Thursday morning. I also put out our daily shorts, and 3 times a week I do a long form video that just goes into a topic. I have a very juicy topic next week that's guaranteed to upset a few people. And in addition to that, on Sundays, I share poetry that I write, poetry about this, about life and going through separation, some stuff about my personal life and what who I am and what I do. So if you're interested in any of that, do hop along and look at that. I think it's under After Dark or Musings or something. And if you want to know a little bit more about me, my name is Debbi Carberry. I am based in Australia. I am English born and I am a migrant out here, and I love this country with all my heart. I have 4 adult children, and I have, relationships with them that sometimes are easy and sometimes are challenging. I am partnered. My partner and I have been together, I think, we're coming up for 22 years this year, I think, and we're not married. I've had my fair share of wobbly relationships, very wobbly relationships. I have a trauma history, and I was quite anxiously attached as a young woman, and I'm grateful to say that today that I feel more secure than I ever have. And I help women who are going through really difficult things. I do that in my online membership. I do that in free workshops online, and I have now moved over to YouTube, which is proving to be challenging. YouTube is proving to be challenging, ladies. It's tech, and I'm not good with tech. So sometimes I get a bit panicked and worried because it's not working, and I just am trying to stick at it. I encourage all of my members to try and do hard things. We can do hard things. And sometimes that is a big ask. And this is a hard thing for me, trying to manage this navigation, this situation on YouTube. But it is something I've really wanted to do for a long time. I have a lot of content, a lot of videos, a lot of resources that I share. And so, yeah, YouTube seems like the obvious place to do that. If you're looking for my resources, they're in my videos. So the link to my Heartbreak to Healing workshop, if you haven't got that and you'd like it, let me know in the comments and I'll give it to you. I have a whole series on affairs. I have a 4-part series on affairs and how to navigate through affairs, what affairs are, what type of affairs they are, what goes on in affairs, and there's also a downloadable resource that goes with that. Those are free of charge, and they're on my playlist, which is the affairs playlist. So you can have a look at that. I also have a playlist around when long-term relationships end, and that just gives you some emotional first aid in those early days. And there's also a downloadable with that as well. Hi, Cody. How are you, my darling? 3 months and still saying maybe in a few months, but just friendship at the moment. Still wants more texts and was together nearly 14 years. Oh, so one of the things I think that's really important is when somebody tells you they don't know what they want and they've left and they're just thinking about it, you need to start understanding that they're weighing up their options. They're going, well, if something better comes along, I'll probably do that. But if nothing better comes along, I probably will come back to you. So they're just hedging their bets. It's quite a cruel thing to do, if you ask me, for many reasons. Number one, you are in a painful place, and so sometimes we can accept breadcrumbs, bits, little tiny morsels from them, in the hope that maybe they'll come back and we'll be able to resolve it. It's really important, I think, to try and deal with what's in front of you this moment and try and stick with what's in front of me this moment. And in the present moment, that person is not with you. So I always recommend try and just stay with that. Try and stay with a, okay, maybe he's saying maybe, or she is saying maybe in a few months we'll get back together again. We're just going to be friends for now. Then I would be saying to myself on a daily basis, this person's left me. They don't know what they want. But in this moment right now, they're not here. They're not saying they're coming back here. And that's what I've got to deal with. The reason I suggest that is because you can't begin to grieve and move through the process of grief if you are still holding on to the fact that maybe they're going to change their mind. Maybe if you give them some space, they'll reconsider. Maybe if they can have a chance to kind of do some of the things that they want to do, then maybe they'll come back to you. I know how tempting it is and how seductive it is to think, well, maybe they're just going through something and they're going to come back. And it can be really tempting to lean into that. But I know that that will slow down your capacity to move through this. And girls, I have to drink coffee in the morning. I'm sorry, I'm just not right without it. I do this when I usually do it with my members. So if anybody's offended that I'm drinking coffee, please know it's early here and I need the caffeine, otherwise I can't function well enough. So Cody, here's what I think. I think you can leave a portion of this to perhaps they'll change their mind, but deal with what's happening in the present moment. Deal with what's going on right now. They're not at home. They've been gone for 3 months. They're saying maybe they'll sort it out, but for you to be able to deal with the reality of today, which is they're not at home, they're somewhere else. They're weighing up their options, but for you, you are in the moment where they are not with you and they are saying they don't know if they want to be with you. And as painful as that is, as hard as that is, as distressing as that is the kindest thing that you can cling on to, because that is based in reality. That's going to give you an opportunity to lean into what's going on and decide what you want to do, because you have to decide what you want to do. And in these circumstances, sometimes we get so stuck in the what do they want that we lose ourselves. And you have a right to be seen, heard, and valued. You have a right to know what this person is wanting to do in the short term and the longer term. And you have a right to move through that grief process without it being stopped or hindered because this person doesn't know what they want. I think it's really cruel personally. I think a lot of the times that I see it happening, the person has decided they are leaving. They're definitely on their way. They don't want to have difficult conversations. They don't want to deal with all of the painful stuff that comes up from that. And so they say things like, I'm just going to try and work it out. Let's stay friends. It's a bit cruel, in my opinion. I just think it's a bit cruel. If you have a question for me, I'm just turning over my piece of paper with questions on it. If you have a question for me, if you are coming out of a long-term relationship, if you are in the washing machine of churning of all of the things in the early days of that, and the early days can be the first 12 to 24 months, depending on how long you were together, then please do come along. You can ask me questions here on the lives. You can also pop information into the comments, which I will read after the lives. If you are needing more assistance, I am running my week-long free Heartbreak to Healing workshop that is happening in May, on May the 13th. You're more than welcome to come and join me with that. If you haven't got the link for that and you would like the link for that, I can pop it into the pinned comments of this video when I'm finished. It might even be in the description. I'll have to look at that because, as I said, I'm new to YouTube and so I'm going to work it out. So I'll do those things. If you want to come along, you're more than welcome to come along. It's a week with myself and one of my coaches, where we give you some really foundational assistance on trying to get through that really difficult early stage. I also work with my members online around anything to do with relationships. Mainly we talk about when relationships end, relationships with children, particularly older children, where there can be a lot of distress in that, especially if kids are choosing sides, or estranged, which is really painful. And in addition to that, one of my biggest things that we're dealing with all of the time, no matter what is going on, is loving yourself. And how do you love yourself through this process? How do you build yourself back up? How do you take care of yourself? And so I talk about those kinds of things an awful lot on my channel as well. You're quite welcome, Cody. If you're here and you haven't yet said hello, please say hello. Give me a thumbs up because it helps the algorithm, I'm told. Also, hit the subscribe button so that you get notified when I'm coming live. Like I said, I put out stuff every single day. And if you hit the notification button, and I don't know this, so I'm just hoping I'm correct. If you hit the notification button when I do come live, you'll be advised of that. But check my channel out. There's a lot of videos on here. Like I said, I've put them into playlists. So, if you're coming out of a long-term relationship, there is a playlist for that. There is a Heartbreak to Healing playlist, which is where I suggest people start off. There is an affairs playlist, and I'm building up those playlists. And a playlist to the best of my knowledge, is a bit like a Netflix series. It just keeps running. So I think that's what they're doing. So forgive me if I'm not getting the terminology correct, but you know exactly what I mean, girls, so it doesn't matter. Morning, Mary. How are you, my darling? Nice to see you. Some of my members are here, so hello, members. Okay, let me answer another question that I get asked really frequently. I've blocked him and I've tried to move on, but I still think about him every single day. How do I stop hurting myself like this? Blocking people when they leave is really hard. Once upon a time, relationships ended, and in your small little community, they would go their way, you would go your way. You wouldn't see them every day, you wouldn't engage with them every day, and you'd be able to move through the process reasonably okay. And what I mean that is you wouldn't have a bombardment of what is going on in their lives. Today we've got social media, and of course with social media becomes access to their lives, everything they're doing all of the time. And it can be very, again, seductive to hop on to one of the platforms and see what they're doing, what they're posting about. Have they changed their status on there? Are they seeing somebody else? What are they doing in their spare time? It's really painful when you are already trying to cope with the grief of the relationship ending, when you're already trying to cope with moving forward. I recommend, and it's not easy, and everything that I teach is really about bite-sized pieces. So I try and encourage people, do something for a minute rather than setting yourself up for failure. So if you say, look, I can't block them, it's too painful, block them for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or block them for half a day, or block them for a full day. Block them to the point that you can tolerate, and build the muscle on that. You know, if you can do it for 24 hours and then you go, you know, I did it for 24 hours and that helped me not to be able to see what was going on. And then you can ask yourself, could I do another 24 hours? Could I do another 6 hours? Could I do another 8 hours? And build on it. And I think when it comes to separation, that's really important, is with anything at all. It is about building the muscles, the relational muscles, to try and cope with what is going on. So it's about doing things in a really bite-sized pieces, making sure that you take care of yourself and that you don't add on to all the grief and loss and the trauma and upset of a relationship ending. You don't add on to that by going, you know, I should be further along. I shouldn't be feeling like this. I shouldn't be looking. I shouldn't. Like, don't should on yourself. Just be gentle, be compassionate and kind to yourself, and remind yourself, I'm doing the very best I can. This is really difficult. I'm trying hard, and it's difficult and it's painful, and I'll get there. I'll get there in the end. So that's what I would do, you know, as you try and move through the pain of wanting to look. Remind yourself and think about when you've looked, how it makes you feel. So sit down afterwards and sort of 0 to 10. Do I feel better or do I feel worse? You know, I would suggest to you that while you are doing it, you probably are, you know, you're releasing some chemicals in your body that'll probably help you feel a bit better in the short term. But once you've finished, how are you feeling 0 to 10? Are you feeling, oh, that really helped, I feel so much better now? Or are you sitting there going, I wish I hadn't done that, that was so painful, I wish I hadn't looked, that's made things 10 times worse. So really monitoring, is it helping or not? Do I feel better or not? And asking friends too, like, please don't share what they're doing, please don't share what you've seen, because that's also really painful. You know, did you know that they've done this? Did you know I saw them doing that? Like, yeah, just giving you an opportunity to just lean into the pain and the heartache and the sadness and just get through those really difficult early stages of grief. So yeah, if you're going through that, you know, blocking, I think, is a great idea. It's not something a lot of people can do straight away. It's not something people can do wholeheartedly, as in they block and then they don't look again. And that's okay. We don't need to do it perfectly, right? We can just do it really gently and really kindly and really softly in a way that protects our emotional health and well-being, which is really important. All right, if anybody has any questions for me, you can pop them into the comments, or if you just want to make a comment, that would be good too. As I said, I come on and do these Q&As once a week. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. You can come on live and ask those. Of course, you can come on the replay and watch them on the replay too if you want. I'm new to YouTube. I am struggling. I'm struggling with YouTube because I've always been on Facebook and Instagram. I'm moving across here. I think this platform will be better for me, and so there's a bit of a transition, and yeah, there's going to be a bit of wobbles, but I'm getting there. Actually, this week, accidentally, I put out a video that was 7 seconds long that had nothing in it really, just a hello, and I'm going to talk to you when it finished. And I couldn't make it right, so I've just let it go and gone. Done is better than perfect. It's good to just get things out there sometimes. So I'm giving myself permission to do it in a wobbly kind of way. And that works for me. I don't mind if I'm wobbly and imperfect. It makes me quite human, I think. So if anybody has any questions or any comments I want to make, please pop them in now, and then I'm going to head off. As I said, my Heartbreak to Healing workshop is happening from the 13th of May to the 21st of May. You're more than welcome to come and join me. I'll put the link in the comment section of this video if you just want to click on that. You'll be sent emails. That's how I communicate with you during the workshop, is through emails. And of course, we have a group that we run it in. What else was I going to say? The workshop, I think that's it. And if you want, if you're here and you want to look at some of my playlists, I've got ones about affairs, getting through a long-term relationship ending. I think we have a self-soothing and self-caring one, and a few others. So I'll go and binge on those, I say. Everything in the house reminds me of him. Should I remove it all? And that's hard to do. It's hard to remove it all. You know what I mean? And I think, when you have, when you're going through such a lot of upheaval, if you're finding something's really tricky, get those out of the way. Do you know what I mean? Some women really need to change their bedrooms, and whether that's buying new sheets or changing the orientation of the bed or something like that, that can be a bit helpful while you're still trying to struggle and go through. If you want to remove some photographs or bits and pieces that you're finding challenging, then you can move them into a box or something like that, just to have spaces in the house, maybe in the bedroom, maybe in some of the common areas. If you have kids, it's important for them that they see the other parent, and maybe they have photographs and things in their rooms if they're if they want those photographs. It's important to remember that our kids are going through the separation too, and depending on the age of your child will depend on how they respond to your going through this breakup. Older kids tend to really have an opinion and be very forthright about it, and generally take sides, which is not always good. And younger kids just are really lost and confused, and it needs extra support around how you manage that with your little people. Hey Shirley, nice to see you now. Sarah, do you have any ideas for when we are having a stressful day? I can't first, but I find that those days are really stressful days. Things linger for longer. So yes. So what I suggest is on a good day, you should do 3 pieces of self-care. On a reasonably bad day, you should do 5 pieces of self-care. And on a very stressful day, you should do 10 pieces of self-care. So when it comes to stressful days, it means we need more support. We really need to have more support. And so what I recommend is and I recommend this to my members, have a self-soothing box. Have a box that, because when we're stressed and overwhelmed and really in the washing machine of emotion, it's hard to think straight and think about what we need to do. And you might have in that box a little palm card or a little note that you've written to yourself around some basic things like do some breathing. And you can breathe every hour on the hour. That's really helpful. 4-4-4-4 breathing, square breathing, 4-7-8 breathing, deep, long inhales, hold your breath, and really, 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 really long blowing out to calm down your nervous system. So breathing every hour can be incredibly helpful. In addition to that, maybe you have some sensory things you can do. Maybe you have, lotions. This one is very strong smelling, that I use for one of my joints hurt. But lotions can be a good idea. Putting moisturizer on your hand can be a good idea. Having something to touch. I have a ton of crystals on my desk. Something you can hold and touch and move your hands around can be really, really helpful. Something you can smell. I see I've got them all on my desk. Vicks, which is one of my favorite things to smell. Having a ball on your desk that you can throw at a wall, boom, 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 can be very, very helpful. So using all of your senses, maybe you have some peppermint chewing gum or strawberry chewing gum or something like that where you can chew. Chewing actually really is quite soothing. Have a warm shower, have a warm bath, have a cold shower, because that sometimes can really lift us a little bit. Do nice things for yourself, wrap a warm blanket around yourself, go for a walk, like really lean into doing as much self-care as you can and reminding yourself, this is a really stressful day for me and I'm doing my best. And the way to really manage it is to go in and check in. 0 to 10, how stressed do I feel now? Because sometimes we think, gosh, I'm at a 10 out of 10 all day long, and we're not. We might be at a 6 at one point and then at an 8, and we might hit a 10 and then we drop down to a 2. And so checking in with yourself is really important to remind yourself that your stress isn't peaked up high. It kind of moves in waves, and knowing that you need to be more mindful and more attentive to your stress once it gets over a 5 out of 10, because then you're becoming quite distressed. I hope that was helpful, my love. Becky, I'm struggling with wanting to contact the 2 women my husband is seeing. We've been separated for 5 months from a 25-year marriage. Becky, I can understand why you would like to do that. That makes sense to me. I would really strongly urge you not to do that for a number of reasons. So we can feel really wounded and hurt, and we want to reach out and we want to talk to these women and say, you know what he's doing? Let me tell you what he's doing, because you're both on the hook here. Those women, number one, may be aware of it. Number two, they may not be aware of it, but they may not care. And they may care, and you telling them and then them going back to him and saying, well, your wife told me X, Y, and Z, is going to cause an awful lot more stress for you. If your relationship is over and you're trying to move forward and you're trying to manage the grief and the loss and the sadness, we can want to kind of strike out. We can want to hurt the person who's hurt us, because hurt people, right? And so it's not unusual to want to sort of strike out and go, right, I'm going to really make you suffer because you're making me suffer. But in the end, it can cause a lot of issues, and it can backfire enormously on you. They may share things with you you don't want to hear. They may say things to you that you don't want to hear or you shouldn't hear, or that are not good for you. And I get it. I really, really, really get it. A way to kind of process it rather than actually act on it, write it out, write them a letter, write all the things in it, everything you want to say, every single thing, and then burn it. Don't send it to them. Because in the end, it may not help you. It may actually cause more harm than it does good. So I understand wanting to do it, but I think you need to be very, very careful, because it could backfire and really wound you, my darling. Now, I'm going to finish up shortly, so if you've got any more questions, pop them into the comments right now. And just a reminder, please, 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 for the YouTube algorithm, please can you hit the subscribe button? Please can you hit the notification button, because the notification button tells you when I'm doing things on my channel. And please hit a like, because the likes help and the comments help too. Let me see what's going on here. Hey, Kate, I feel like I'm struggling with, like I've been in a 20-year relationship rather than a 3-year relationship. And Kate, we have talked about this before, and that's that when we have a relationship end, and it may not have been a long time, maybe we've come out of a long-term relationship, and maybe we've gone through some other things as well, and then we have this sort of compounding, layering effect. If our life is a bit complex, which I know yours is, and there are other things that are going on, then the feelings, even though it isn't 20 years, the feelings can be really strong, because we have so many other things that are happening and impacting the way we feel. So it's not unusual. It really isn't unusual for some people who have not had a really long 20-30 relationship, but still have the intensity of letting go, because it's more complicated. Let me see what's going on here. Hello, Margie. What's your view on therapeutic separation? You'd have to define that for me, my love, because I'm not sure what you mean by therapeutic separation. Sometimes that happens in addiction. Sometimes that happens where there's domestic violence and things like that. So you need to sort of let me know what you mean by therapeutic separation. So if you want to have sort of explain that to me, I'll happily answer it. I am finishing this live shortly. So if you want to get it in quickly, I will try and answer that for you, my darling. Kelly, I want to burn my wedding dress, but wonder whether I should ask my eldest child if she wants me to keep it for her. So here's what I recommend early in separation. Do not do anything. Imagine you are driving down a highway at 200 kilometers an hour. You're not going to veer right or left without indicating. I really, really encourage you not to do anything harsh in the first 12 months that you may regret. You know, you married that person because you love them. You have children with that person. And you may just want to wait. If it's painful, package it up and put it out the way. If it's too painful to have it in the house, give it to somebody. You go, just hang on to that for me while I try and work through what I want to do. But I would strongly urge everybody in those very early days, do nothing hasty that you may regret in 6 months or 12 months or 2 years' time. Give yourself grace in the very early stages. Just give yourself space in the very early stages, because you may need to just work through some feelings first. I'm going to sneeze. Hang on, there's another one. Excuse me, ladies. Don't know where they came from, but they came. So yeah, early on, just slow things down. Take it easy. Be gentle with yourself. Make no quick decisions. Just slow down. Thank you, ladies. I don't even know what caused me to sneeze, but it did. And I'm just going to wait and see if Margie has or wants to finish off that question for me so I can answer it for her. And then I'm going to head off. Don't forget, got to make a broken record, aren't I? Don't forget, subscribe and notify, like, comment, build my channel, girls. I'm like a little train at the moment. My first goal was to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm past that. Yay! I think I have 1,080 or something like that now. So I'm really chuffed about that. And you know, we're working on building this channel. I have lots of things I want to bring to this space, and I'll be doing that in the coming months. 2025 is the year for me to really get my head around YouTube and really build this up. All right, let me see what's going on. Margie, my partner is doing the work, but I need a space to help me feel safe and find myself, decide what my next steps will be. Okay, that makes sense, Margie. Here's the thing. If you want to separate because you're trying to work it out, I don't think that's a bad thing, except you have to be working on trying to work it out. So I think it has to be quite contained. There, you know, sit and work out the boundaries. No seeing other people. You know, do you see each other for dates? Do you see each other daily? Do you check in by telephone? Are you doing therapeutic interventions separately or together? Are you going to see a therapist? Just trying to work through those things, I think is really important, and having a time on it. So for me, I think 6 weeks is plenty. If you are wanting to sit down and work out what do I want to do, then I think 6 weeks is plenty of time to work that out and to try and work out, okay, what's my very next step? I think when we are not sure about relationships, we have to be a bit careful about the other person and be mindful of, you know, if I don't know what I want, I don't want to string this person along. I don't want this person having to be in more pain because I'm not really sure about what I want. So I think you have to kind of really have a lot of boundaries around it, be very clear and upfront with each other about what that's going to look like and how that's going to work and when the end date is, because that's super, super important. Mikey's my partner is doing the work, but saw that. Cody, can you stop them breadcrumbing you? No, sweetie, you can't, but you can stop reacting to them breadcrumbing you. And that's the thing, right? When I work with women, I don't want to focus on them because you have no control over them. I want to focus on you because that's where all of the power is, right? I want to empower you to be able to do things where you know, you can't stop people ghosting you, but you can work on how to manage your reaction to that. You might have a really dodgy picker and be out dating again and your picker's broken, so you're picking the same kind of people over and over again. So, you know, I'd like to help you fix your picker up. You might be going through, this massive identity crisis because your long-term relationship has ended, you're going through menopause, and your adult kids are being assholes. And so maybe you need help with empowering you to speak up and set boundaries and take care of yourself in a way that you've probably never done before. And I want to empower women to do that. You may be going through a long-term relationship ending and you've never been on your own in your life. And I want to empower you to understand that independence is not the end of the world, and that this can be a new chapter that is very, very special. It may not feel like that in the season that you are currently in. If you are going through a separation, that season can feel intolerably painful. If you are coming through the other side of separation and you're like, gosh, I'm starting over, and that's terrifying. I've not dated for 20 years or 30 years. I've not had to go out there. I haven't had to take care of myself financially, as in individually by myself. Maybe I haven't had to mow a lawn or do any maintenance on my house. Trust me, I do the lawns in my house, and I whippersnipper, which is scary. Just saying, it's really freaking scary. That machine is scary. But I do things which I would have never have done because I have been through 2 separations, and I've learned that it's really important to have some skills. And then I feel empowered. I don't feel helpless or hopeless in my relationships. But that's something we have to learn. Those are things, the skills that we've got to learn. And that's what I'm all about. I teach women how to stand up real tall and proud and to face whatever comes, whether that's a stressful day, whether that's a young child who's really struggling because of a separation, whether that's an older child who's being sassy and a bit mean and rude, whether that is dealing with an ex-partner who, you have to have contact with because you have ongoing care of children, or an ex-partner who lives in a small town with you, or you have to work with. Maybe you're separated under the same roof, which is an extraordinarily painful experience where, because of circumstances, you can't move out of the family home, you have to stay together. So my job, I see, is, helping you be relationally fit, teaching you about boundaries and communication and self-care and self-love, and helping you to understand what you want and what you need and how to go about getting that stuff, and empowering you to know that you have a voice and you can ask, and it's okay if people say no, that you won't fall apart. I am a trauma-informed, attachment-based, internal family systems relational life therapist. That's a tongueful, isn't it? And so that's my training. Those are the things that I've learned in my life and the things that I bring to the table. But online, I'm a relationship coach. I coach people. I encourage people. I mentor people, women. I do work with men, so I work with men privately, usually not in groups. Men generally don't want to work in groups. And women generally do because of community and having other people around that can make you feel like you are not having to do this on your own. So that's why I have my membership. I have a global membership for women who are struggling. Usually they come in the early stages of separation, but some of them have been with me a long time and they've moved through that. Some have got married and had babies since they started working with me. You know who you are. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with everything. All right, my darlings, I'll be back next Thursday at 7:30 a.m. Constantly trying to make sure that I get this right because I tend to struggle with it. I'll get used to it. And I will find a way of being able to do this with less hassle at the front end, which is when I start to open up the video. I have some issues, but I'll get used to it. I hope you are all taking care of yourself. For those of you who are joining me for the Heartbreak to Healing workshop, you're welcome to come again in the coming weeks before we have the workshop. I will be sending you emails with resources that you can download and take a look at that will help you. If you're new to my channel, welcome. As I said, my name is Debbi Carberry. I am in my very late 50s, coming up for 60 this year. I am mum to 4 adult kids. I am partnered currently. I am a therapist. I'm based in Australia, and I am here to try and help and support you in the best way I possibly can. Like I said, in addition to that, I have a little musings, after dark musings tag on my YouTube page. I'm putting poetry on there at the moment, but I'm also going to be putting in some of the things that I'm passionate about, which is cooking from scratch. I have a huge garden, which I grow lots of food in, and I use food as part of my health regime. I use lots of fresh, healthy food from my garden to make delicious meals, and I share recipes like that. Things about fermenting and making whole foods that are really good for your gut, because we know gut health is really important for our general health and certainly our mental health. So I talk a lot about that, and I'll be bringing you along for some of the general shenanigans that I get up to in my life. I do think that I'm a bit funny. I consider myself to be quite the comedian. And as we get to know each other, you may find me quite comic too. Thank you so much for coming this morning and joining me. Thank you for commenting, liking, sharing, notifying, and all the things that I'm told I have to say on these videos. I appreciate that a lot. It is quite the learning curve for me. Take care of yourselves, my darling. If you have questions for me, do come along and see me on Thursday mornings. And I'm going to head off and get into my day. And yeah, take the very, very best care of yourself. And I will see you all soon. Bye, everyone. Now I've got to work out how to end it. It's all good. I'll get the hang of it, girls. I will get the hang of it. Here we go.